Hey guys, how's it going? It's Leon here. Today I'm going to present to you on preventing overwhelm and stopping paralysis in action. So I'm sure that we've all been here before, that we get really overwhelmed. And when that happens, that we start to feel like we are getting stuck. And I've certainly been here before myself. And when that happens, I find it useful to use this tool that I'm going to present to you. And this is a tool that I've used with my clients, and they certainly have found this to be helpful. So I'm pretty excited to present this to you. So, what can you do when you're getting overwhelmed and you feel like you are paralyzed, you don't know how to move forward? So, I want you to think about what you want out of life when you are feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling stuck. What do you feel that you may be lacking? So I want you to tune into the feelings you get when you are feeling overwhelmed, such as often when people are overwhelmed, they experience anxiety or they experience a lack of clarity or they feel like they're really stuck. So I want you to kind of tune into what that feeling is. And when you do, ask yourself, what is the opposite of that? What is the positive term that is opposite to what you are experiencing? So I'll tell you what I mean by this. So if you're feeling anxiety, what you're looking for is calm. And you can see that calm is on this list right here. When you're feeling like there's a lack of clarity, obviously you're looking for clarity. When you're feeling stuck, what you're looking for is growth, which is on this list. So look for that word here. And the reason why I'm asking you this question this way is that I'll give you an example. So when smokers want to stop smoking, when they concentrate on how they want to stop smoking and they tell themselves, stop smoking, stop smoking, stop smoking, that actually is not that effective. However, when they work towards something that is positive in their life, such as wanting a smoke free life, that is a lot more motivating. It's harder to push away something that is negative than to work towards something that is positive. So when you are focused on anxiety, even though you're thinking about how you want to stop anxiety, your energy is still there in the anxiousness. If you want to stop being stuck, if you are focused on that stuckness by thinking, I want to stop getting stuck, I want to stop getting stuck, your energy is stuck there. So I want you to turn that word around and look for what you are looking for. Is it calm? Is it clarity? Is it growth? Because that is going to, having that focus on that positive term is going to motivate you in a way that will energize you to take action. Then what I want you to do is to place where you are on a 10-point scale in regards to that very word that you've identified here. So say that it's calm. 10 being you're absolutely calm and 0 being not at all. Where are you on that scale right now? If it's clarity, 10 being absolute clarity, 0 being not at all, where are you on this scale? So the reason why I'm asking you to put it on a scale, and first of all, when you put it on a scale, go for the feeling of it. How do you feel? How do you feel like when you're on the scale? The reason why I'm asking you to put it on a scale is that this is a way for you to reduce that sense of overwhelm. And I'll give you a metaphor that is really effective at illustrating this. When I heard about this for the first time, I found it to be very helpful in relaxing myself when I'm getting overwhelmed. So it goes like this. Say that you are thousands of feet above the ground in an airplane, and you want to be able to see what is on the ground. You want to be able to make out what the buildings are, what the streets are, what the cars are, the people. But you can't see any of that when you're thousands of feet above the ground. So what do you need to do? So instead of horrifying ourselves for not being able to see what's on the ground, what you need to do is that you need to lower your plane. And the closer and closer you get to the ground, eventually the buildings will start to appear to you. The streets will start to become clear. You could even start to see the cars and the people on the street. So you want to lower that plane. Before you can see what's on the ground, you need to be able to start to lower your plane. So people overwhelm themselves when they think in terms of, I want to completely get rid of my anxiety and I want to be absolutely calm. And they think about how they're not at a 10 out of 10 when it comes to calmness, or they think about how they're not a 10 out of 10 when it comes to clarity in life or sense of growth. And that's when people get to be overwhelmed because they're thinking about that end goal, that end vision, and how it's not clear to them how to get there. So you place it on a scale so you know where you are on that scale. Then instead of focusing on what you don't have, on how you're not at a 10, ask yourself instead, how come it's not a lower number? So for me, I'll give you an example from my own life. I suffered from really severe social anxiety. And when I'm suffering severe social anxiety, calmness, on average, I was probably a 3 out of 10 in my life. In terms of connection with others, I felt like it was a 2 out of 10. And when it comes to clarity in my life, I felt like it's 1 out of 10. So those seem like dismal numbers, right? Because one thing is that when I'm at a 3 or 2 or 1, I tend to focus on how come I'm not at a 10, and I start to feel really, really bad. So put it on the scale, and instead of thinking about what you don't have, think about what you do have. So for example, when it comes to calmness, when I have it a 3 out of 10 scale, I could ask myself, how come it's not a 1 out of 10? When it comes to connection, I have 2 out of 10. I could ask myself, how come it's not a 0 out of 10? And even if I have something that's 1 out of 10, like clarity in my life, I could still ask myself, how come it's not a 0 out of 10? The reason why you do this is not merely just to feel positive. That's not the point of this. Because often when we're so fixated on what we don't have, our brains are not actually able to see possibilities and opportunities. Our brains kind of shut down when we think in terms of lack. But when we could think in terms of what we have so far, where we could tap into that and see what got us to where we are right now, that is actually going to be, first of all, much more motivating because we're thinking positively, but at the same time, we're tapping into our inner resources. What is it that has brought calmness to my life already, even though I feel a lot of anxiety? What is it that makes even that little bit of calmness? What allows me to connect with people, even though I have social anxiety? What allowed me to be able to get to a 2 out of 10, right, on that scale in terms of connecting with people? Perhaps when I'm around friends, I tend to be a bit more open and a bit more relaxed, even though I felt tense around a lot of people. But when I could tap into what am I doing when I'm engaging with my friends that allows me to be open and more relaxed, that is going to start to provide me with some solutions. Starting from the starting point of how you're able to operate already in a way that is already working, right? So what if you choose 1 out of 10? Well, 1 out of 10 is still significant because 1 means you have some sort of concept of something, and 0 means that you don't have a concept of it all. Like 0 out of 10 in clarity means you have no clarity. 1 means you have some idea, like some very vague idea. And what if you chose 0 out of 10? Well, if you choose 0 out of 10, I'm going to really challenge you on that, because when I talk with clients and they say like, I'm absolutely anxious, I absolutely don't have clarity in my life, and I ask them to scale it on a 10-point scale, how much calmness and clarity do you have? Then they say 0, it's absolutely 0. I find that when I start to ask them curious questions about their lives, and they start to look at it in terms of more detail, that actually they have a certain amount of calmness in the life. And they tell me it's not really a 0 out of 10, it's actually a 4 out of 10. And with clarity, it's not really 0 out of 10, it's like a 3 out of 10, something like that. So often, like when we think about things in terms of zeros and tens, that tends to be very black and white thinking, and that usually is not the case. And even if you chose a very, very low number, keep in mind that this is just one area of your life that we're talking about. And often we get overwhelmed because we're thinking about how much we're lacking in this one area of life that we start to become hyper fixated on. And we don't look at the other areas of our life in which we may be doing well in. So even though I had social anxiety, there's areas of my life I was doing well, and I was a creative person. And that's something for myself to acknowledge. The thing is, when I had severe social anxiety, that became my whole world. I completely defined myself as that, and I cannot see how I was developing in other areas or how I had strengths in other areas. So it's very important to keep that in mind. So the point of asking yourself, how come it's not a lower number, is to tap into the inner resources, just like what I said. What allowed you to get to the number where you are? Then you ask yourself, what do you need to go up two more numbers? So the whole point of this is to prevent that sense of overwhelm. We get overwhelmed because we're fixated on the 10, right? Instead, something that's much more practical to do is to look just two more numbers up. How do I get two more numbers up the scale? If I'm at a 3, how do I get to a 5? If I'm at a 5, how do I get to a 7? And that's a lot more reasonable because that it's easier and clearer to see how to get two numbers up. So we focus on how you could reach 10 over time. As you could see in this picture here on this slide, the plane is now closer to ground so that it's able to see more and more what is there. So what you want to do is to be able to descend your airplane over time until it starts reaching 10. But as you descend, don't think about the 10. That's not where you need to be. If you're at a 3, focus on getting to a 5. If you're at a 5, focus on getting to 7. And the thing is, when you take things a step at a time, eventually the way forward will be clearer. Once you get to a 5, it's going to be clear how to get to a 7. When you're at 7, it's going to be clear how to get to a 9. And when you're at 9, you know how to get to a 10. So there's no reason to think about the 10. Just take it a step at a time and a way forward will become clear. So on the slide, I write here, there's paradigm shifts when you're going up the numbers. And what that's basically saying, just going back to the point of there being a significant difference between a 0 and a 1. And as you work on things, even if you're working on things a step at a time, keep in mind that your progress actually multiplies over time because you are deepening your concept of what you're trying to figure out. You're actually climbing in terms of paradigm shifts, in terms of your awareness. And the next point here, I basically said before, remember what you scaled is just one area of your life. I want to share with you another neat trick. So say you feel like in terms of your confidence, you're at a 2 out of 10. Keep in mind, there's different areas of your life which you might have various degrees of confidence. So when I'm focused on social anxiety, I'll think, wow, I must be a 1 out of 10 when it comes to confidence. But think about confidence in terms of your life in general. Think about different areas of your life. For example, when it comes to English class back in high school, when it comes to writing, my confidence is greater. And that's something that's important to keep in mind when you're doing the scales. Where in your life do you have confidence? And there's probably, even if you experience a lot of anxiety, there might be areas where you experience calm and you might actually be calmer than other people because you want to draw upon that energy. You want to draw upon where do you feel confident in your life and where do you feel this calmness in your life? And you could take that energy and you can start to bring it in to the areas of your life in which you feel like you're lacking in these qualities. So again, don't focus on the 10. That's going to cause you to horrify yourself. Just focus on how you could use the inner resources you have to go up to numbers. So in the ways I'm able to bring calmness in my life, in the ways I'm able to bring confidence in my life, even though it's in a different area of my life than the area that I want to work on, how can I use that to bring myself up to more numbers. A great analogy is this. Here is a absolutely wonderful piece of art that I've created on the side of the slide here. You can tell that I'm basically the next Picasso. It's just pretty self-evident there. And what I have is that I drew a telephone pole, I swear, and also a guy that is running. And if this guy is focused on the ends, like I have to run like a whole entire hour, that is going to be very overwhelming to this guy. But if this guy is focused on how can I get to that next telephone pole and then that next sign down the street, that is a lot less overwhelming when you could think about it this way. So the whole point of going up two numbers is to be able to see things through this lens, which makes things feel a lot more manageable. And then the next thing you want to do is to take an action step so that you're able to get two numbers up. So don't focus on anything more than those two numbers. Focus on how do I get two numbers up? And this small action step, even if you take that one step, even if you do that first thing in order to take this action step, that action step will bring you great clarity and relief, which no amount of thinking and feeling can do. So when you could do something that is specific and concrete and say, this is what I want to do within this next week towards what I want to work towards. When you can focus it in such a way, it feels a lot less overwhelming because there's something that you could concentrate on, you could put your mind to, and that brings you greater relief. And when you take that action step, when you actually do something about it, then you start to feel better about it. I'm sure you've experienced this before, that when you could just take an action step towards something, it's just nice to do. It feels like you're doing something about it. And you don't have to think about how you have to complete everything. You have to get to your end goal. When you do that, that's really overwhelming. When you can take that one action step, you're going to start to feel better. And next question here is also key as well. What is the short-term benefit of taking this action, this specific action step? Because often we overwhelm ourselves because we're so focused on how much better my life will be when I get to a 10. Oh, if I had no anxiety at all, no social anxiety, and I could be a social butterfly, how wonderful that would be. And I won't allow myself to feel good until I get there. But that's going to be really demotivating because we're thinking about how we're not there and we start to not feel motivated and we can't take action. So if you could think about taking that specific action step and thinking about what is the benefit of even taking that action step, that's going to help maintain your motivation. And not only that, it's also practical and realistic and also true too, that taking specific action steps have short-term benefits. So if I challenge myself as someone with social anxiety to speak with 3 store clerks, just to say hi to them and do some small talks, go for that lower hanging fruit. First of all, I feel focused because I feel like that is a manageable goal, right? Second of all, if I take this action, the short-term benefit is that I'm going to practice my skills in socializing when I'm there. I'm going to boost my sense of confidence because I feel like I've done something about it. So when you can think about that short-term benefit and allowing yourself to feel good in the short term, that's going to help maintain your motivation and help you to keep growing and keep building your skills so that you're able to make your way up the scale. Hey guys, so I just want to let you know that I've been through depression before and I've written about it. I've written about how I was told that I had a naturally depressed brain, but I chose not to believe it. And as a result, that I've been able to get better over time. So if you want to read that article, I have a link to that article down below. I'm also going to let you know that I have some additional notes that I want to share regards to reducing overwhelm and preventing paralysis in action. I'm going to make another video after this one about that. If you like this video, subscribe to this channel and also give me a like because that will be helpful to me. Thank you so much for watching.